way.
Okay, so Sarah and I are both moms, and we are both health and fitness coaches. We work with slightly different people, but both still women. And so we want to talk with you guys about how we, as different people with like different aged kids, go about prioritizing our health, wellness, fitness, etc., while we are, moms and business owners. So we're working, right? And so how do we go about prioritizing health and fitness while also doing all the things, right? So Sarah, if you want to go first, like say like ages of your kids. I know your kids do sports too, so like that's a whole other level of prioritizing and
Yeah.
stuff. So tell
Yeah.
us a bit about that.
Yeah. So both of us, well, I currently only work with women. Yeah. I'm starting to transition into teens, but currently, yes. So I have two 15-year-olds and an 11-year-old. I have one of my oldest is in club swim, so he swims 6 days a week. My daughter is in high school swim, so she has morning practices and swims 6 days a week after school, not to include the meets. And then I also have an 11-year-old who just started football this year. Um, and so life is busy. Life is chaotic. I have early morning practices, have to get the my daughter to school by 5:30 in the morning, 3 days a week. I have to pick up kids at 5:30, 5:45 and drop another one off at 7. He swims until 9 p.m. So I kind of go throughout my whole entire day where it starts all crazy and it ends all kind of crazy. Um, and so like I like to plan like I do a couple of different things. I like electronics, but I also like visuals right in front of me. So I can see where I have gaps in my days to make sure that I'm getting in other things that I need to get in. And I typically will go from a month view to a week view to a day view. So I kind of like look at a bigger picture and then I keep narrowing it down. Like, okay, this week I'm going to meal plan. And then like, okay, each individual day, how is life going to look and where do I have to be and when? Because honestly, most days, whether, if there's a swim meet, then that shifts my day. If there's a football game, that's going to make my day different. So it's constantly trying to figure out what the month looks like, what the week looks like, and then what the day individually is going to look like for me. It's kind of how I go about it.
Awesome. Awesome. So pre-planning is
Yeah.
essential, basically. Is what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for me, I have twins that are 14. They just entered high school. They're in ninth grade now. And then I have a 5-year-old. So I'm very much toe in both worlds, right? I have teenagers and then we just got out of the toddler stage recently. So it's been interesting having toes in both worlds. But also, I work with postpartum women to answer the question that came up. Yes, I do work with women. Um, but it does help me having a toe in both worlds because a lot of women, I am 34 now, and a lot of women around my age have younger, between like 5 and maybe a little bit younger, that age group that I have now. I have a younger one now too. So that helps me with like how am I navigating things with a younger kiddo. What does it look like when you have a toddler versus now like a 5-year-old that doesn't nap anymore that's in school. So it's been fun having kiddos in both worlds. But so my kids are not into any sports yet, like school sports. My youngest one does do gymnastics and ballet, but she's only 5, so it's not like ultra time consuming. My twins are in, one's into photography, the other one's really not into much of like outside stuff. So we don't have the hecticness of Sarah's schedule, but I still do need a level of planning ahead, right? Because there are still doctor's appointments, there's still, functions and stuff that we need to do. And so what I do is every week on Fridays, I do our grocery shopping list. And on Fridays, I look ahead for the next week and I see what do we have any doctor's appointments. Mondays, I know that we have gymnastics for my little one. And so I want to either do a crock pot meal or something very simple because I don't want to have to come home and cook a whole elaborate meal at, 5:30 in the evening, right? But I still need to shower, get ready for bed, homework, all the things. And so on Fridays, I will look ahead. I will plan out our meals based off of what the week looks like. And then I will do grocery shopping. But here's where I differ from a lot of other people is I don't do traditional meal prepping. I will make sure to buy extra ingredients for the dinners so that I can make extras for lunches for the next day. And so that's how
Mhm.
I do meal prepping. It's just a little bit different and it works for me. I don't really, we used to do like, bulk meat, bulk all the things, and kind of do meal prepping like that. And it's just kind of evolved for me into doing this instead. So that works better for me. And I think that it's nice to have choices and like hear what other people do because some people love meal prepping ahead of time and like doing that, and that's totally fine. I just prefer to do it this way. It helps with like variety. It helps me to not have to take extra time out of my day because I'm cooking dinner anyways. So why not just make a bit extra for the next day? So that is what we do as far as nutrition goes. Now for workouts. So I had mentioned like when my little one was younger, workouts were really hectic and it was kind of just like fit it in where you can on the days that you can. And that's that. Naps change so often when they're so little. Like it's just crazy. And so it was a long time before I could actually get into like a consistency, like, okay, here's what days I'm going to work out. Here's what days I'm going to do this. Just because of how much she evolved, throughout the years. So now we're not napping. Now we're in school, and now you can have a really good set schedule of like when I'm going to work out. So I do 3 days a week of weightlifting. I do one core day. And so I just spread that out throughout my week. That makes it easier for me. Sometimes if my week is super busy, I'll push it off to a weekend day. So that is, just how I do things. But yeah, it's really just no matter what your goal is, weight loss, maintaining, if you want to put on some muscle, get that toned look, really you need that level of planning ahead, and everyone's going to look a little different. This is how we do things, and so take what you need from this and apply it to your own life. What do workouts look like for you, Sarah?
So I will say one thing with the nutrition piece, we do the same thing. So like my lunch today is leftover taco meat on leftover potatoes from 2 nights ago. And that's with a vegetable. So that's going to be like my lunch, but it's all just quick heat up. It's all just already done for me. So we do the same thing. We just make extras and then you have it. We also do a lot of crock pot meals. So like yesterday, I was picking up and dropping off, and my niece had a swim meet that I was going to because she also swims. And so I made tacos and I just did up the meat and I put it in a crock pot, and then everybody ate whenever they wanted to. And I have that luxury because I do have kids that are a little bit older and they can do things for themselves. They can feed themselves. They can wash themselves. They can put themselves to bed. They can brush their own teeth. Like I don't have, that's the luxury of where they're at now. It wasn't always that way. And it wasn't that way when I started my health journey, which was almost 9 years ago this October. And so Blake was 2, not quite even 2 yet. So I've been in that space too. I will say I'm a lot more rigid with my training. My training for me is what sets literally the tone for everything else that happens in my day. I train actually 6 days a week.
Okay.
And I walk on my 7th day. But I will say my volume of training isn't necessarily it's not like a overload of volume, meaning it's not like I'm going to the gym for 3.5 hours a day and doing all this strength training. I really pulled back on volume. So I basically do 4 movements a day. So I can get a workout in about 35 minutes. So it's nothing like it's not necessarily like what people assume or what some people show, where you have to be in the gym for an hour and a half training super hard and you walk out and you're just sweating and your body's sore and you can't move and all those stuff. That's not what I do. But I will say that going to the gym is my routine, and it has been since I started this journey, like consistently 9 years ago. And so for me, it's like if I don't hit the gym pretty close to when after I wake, the rest of my day it doesn't feel good. It doesn't sit right for me. So I typically go to the gym. If my daughter has morning practice, I go after I drop her off. If she doesn't, I typically leave after my youngest hits the bus, which is around 7:30. And then so I get my 35 to 40-ish minute workout in. And then I typically, if I have time, I try to walk, and I will either walk for one big hunk of time, or if I can't do that, like if I have a call or I have an appointment, I have to be somewhere, then I will walk multiple times throughout my day. Like I'll try to get in 10-minute walk here, a 10-minute walk here, just to kind of, I don't want to say make up for, but you're going to have to do it. Like at some point you're going to have to get in the steps at somehow, some way. So that's typically kind of my training schedule. But the gym just sets the tone. It is how, if I don't hit the gym, I move my body, even if it's like on Sundays, I walk and I do mobility work and I just like stretch. I do some like cat cow and some of your breathing stuff out of your programming. And it's like, if I don't do those things, even if I go to the gym and that's all I do, I say that's all, but it's really important things. It still sets the tone for I come home and I just like feel like, okay, I can sit in this day a little better. So it's kind of how my life works.
I love hearing just how different. I mean, because we're both, health and
Mhm.
fitness, but we have different approaches to things, and that just works for us, our goals, our lifestyle, all the different things. I actually used to work out 5 days a week weightlifting and then do one core day a week. And I have an Aura ring, okay? So it tracks my recovery. Yeah, okay. My body was not recovering well at 5 days a week. Like I have just found that 4 days absolute max of weightlifting, but typically about three, and then a core day, my body just recovers so much better. And isn't it so funny how we're
Mhm.
all just, so different? And that's the thing, you guys, that we both wanted to show with, lifestyles. We're momming, we're doing all the things, but we do different things, right? And so you have to find what works for you. One thing that works for me isn't always going to work for someone else out there, right? And that is like, shameless plug, just the beauty of one-on-one coaching with someone who, number one, gets your life mom, right? Because I feel non-parents just they're not there, they don't get it, like they
Mhm.
just they can maybe empathize, but it's not like truly understanding where you're at in a season of life, right? And so understanding like what you're going through as a parent, and then also able to customize things for you as the individual, what you need, what your goals are, have that outside perspective, looking in, right? Because when you're in it, it's really hard to be objective and look at things. So a lot of times you do need those eyes out there, just to help you look at things and remain neutral.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And I think that's really important too. I literally, my reel today is all about that. It's all about like, stop focusing on what your coworker's doing. Stop trying to do what your mailman does. Like, figure out what works for you. Stop getting distracted by a lot of shiny things and shiny objects, and I sit here and I say like, oh, I train 6 days a week and I do all these things and blah, right? But I also have clients that go to the gym 0 times a week right now because that's not where they're at in their life. And so, like you're talking about, it's like we have to meet people where they're at. I didn't start doing all these things at one time. And you know what I mean? It didn't happen like, oh, one night I just woke up and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to train 17 times in a week. And I'm going to eat all this protein. I'm going to do all these things. It was like gradual process of like learning throughout the way. And I think that's the beauty of hiring somebody that can help you fill the gap. If it's like, everyone I'm talking to right now, it's like, you know, how can drinking water just really benefit me? It's like, well, you've tried to drink water, eat protein, go to the gym, get in your steps, stand on your head, bounce up and down 65 times in a day, get all whatever, and it hasn't worked either. So like, let's just try to do one thing at a time and get really good at the one thing, and then slowly, gradually add in those things, because the reality is it is overwhelming when you have a schedule and you are like, okay, I'm up pretty much every day at 5 a.m. I don't sleep in. Even on the weekends, my kids have swim. I don't sleep in. There's no sleeping in. So it's like I'm up and I'm moving and I don't stop. And my kid, I pick him up at 9 p.m. So it's like it's a constant like figuring out where can these puzzle pieces fit, and also what can be flexed on a little bit, because not every day is going to go perfect. Even when you have it all planned out, it's going to change and it's going to shift and it's going to adjust, because like you're talking about, like People that don't have kids don't really understand you have to be flexible in that. You have to be able to have pieces that flex and move and not understand and understand that it doesn't mean anything bad about you if you have to move those pieces, right? Like
Absolutely. So like perfect example, okay? Yesterday, my one of my teenagers had to stay home because she had new onset of migraine symptoms. Now she has never been like had migraines before, but she had it terrible. She was like vomiting, like it was a terrible migraine that she had. And because she wasn't established for migraines, like I didn't have anything to get her. So I had to get her into the doctors. So one thing I always tell my clients is something is better than nothing. I could not get my full workout in. I had time for half of it because my day changed. I had to bring her to the doctors. So I did half my workout. It wasn't like, oh, can't get my full workout in. That's it. We're gonna stop and we're gonna just shove our face with pizza. I can't get a workout in. So like the rest of it is like, no, something is always better than nothing. My nutrition was still, how I normally eat. Oh, that was fun. A little bubble thing popped up. I forget it does that sometimes.
I know.
My water was still on point. I still got my movement in, so like my general daily steps. The only thing that changed was I did half a workout instead of my full workout. And I think that it's so important to learn how to just roll with things in life, especially as a parent, because things do change, things come up,
Yeah.
and if you're not able to roll with things and still prioritize yourself in some capacity, right? It's going to look different based on what the day looks like, but in some capacity, if you're not able to do that, you are not going to be successful long term. There's no ands or buts about it. You have to adapt, and you have to learn that you, even if you're not perfect, you can still prioritize yourself in some way or another.
Yeah. I always talk about like we live in the black and white, the all or nothing most of the time. Most programs, especially for women who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, who have done every program under the sun. They've done every diet, the keto, the Weight Watchers, the everything. There's no such thing as a gray area. You either follow the program or you don't follow the program. Either you eat the food or you don't eat the food that's on the program, right? Where we live in this gray space, and gray is hard. Like gray is a really difficult place to live in with your health because you don't feel like that's right or correct or enough. And it's really actually the exact place you really should be. It's like you're talking about, like, oh, I only got in half my workout. So a lot of people sadly would go, well, I can't do if I only get half in, there's no point in going, or there's no point in doing it. And that's not the
Right.
case. So yeah, it's a wild ride we live.
It really is. And guys, I don't want you to think that like that we just started doing these things overnight. Like Sarah said, like it's been a slow build on, it's been a learning curve,
Yep.
right? I used to be that person. I was like, well, I can't get a workout in, so I'm just gonna sit on the couch and not
Yeah.
move.
Yeah.
And so it's like as you're on this journey, it's a constant evolution of yourself, of what you do, what you're capable of, the things that you're capable of fitting into your day, right? And so start slowly, build on from there. What are like, so if someone's just starting out and needs to get consistent with the bare bone basics, what would you, as the basics, be?
Right.
um, what are like three things that you're like, start here, get uber consistent with these things?
So I actually just did a huge master class on getting ruthlessly consistent. So if you don't know, that's literally what I do.
Things to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I just did a podcast on this. That's literally my business name, Consistency Over Perfection, right? So like consistent is like my middle name. So I talked a lot about this in the master class, which was, it's like kind of like peeling things back like an onion. And so some of the things like that we talked about was that big oversight, like the bigger view. Like I talked about, like looking at your month. Like, I would say that a lot of people think consistency looks a lot more like perfection, but if we were to break it down, an 80% consistent month gives you 6 days out of the month to kind of go, oops, that day did not go as planned, right? That's 6 days. That's actually a lot of days to have whoopsie days, right? So I think when we start to break it down as to what is consistency, to you as a person? What does that look like in your life? Is consistent? Because I can guarantee you, my consistency, we just had this conversation. My consistency with training is not yours, right? Yours consistency is 3 days a week with a core day. Maybe sometimes you get in a fourth day, right? That's not every day for me. I'm going to the gym, right? That is what consistency is. And now that doesn't mean I go to the gym and I sweat till I can't move and I, can't pee because I can't sit on a toilet the next day, right? So even though my consistency is getting to the gym, but what do I do at the gym? Man, if I'm on my period, on my cycle, or I'm not feeling it. Yeah, I'm going to have a day where I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to spend a lot more time scrolling my phone than I am actually going to work out. Even though I'm going to move my body some, I'm still at the gym. And for me, that's the consistent part. It's not necessarily every single training session being some banger, oh my God, muscles growing, like all those kinds of things. My consistency is literally just getting myself to walk into the door, right? So for me, it's really defining what does consistent actually mean to yourself? Because if you're just like, oh, I want to be consistent, what does that mean to you? Because mine is not going to be the same as yours. So I think that's like the first step that I would do is to define what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because you're so right. Everybody's starting point is different, so your level of consistency has to look different, right? I've been doing this for years. You've been doing this for years. Like, of course, we're going to have more consistency with more things because we've had those years to build up on things. So yeah, that is amazing. Um, so just like three general things that I would say for people who are just starting out their journey, who are like, I need to get consistent. Like, what is XYZ that I can start with, right? Um, Water is always the number one thing for me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, you can drink some water. So that is like one of the things that you should really add into like your top three is water. So
That was one thing I wrote down here. Always have a water bottle to make sure I said that. Always have a water bottle. Because honestly, water for me is low hanging fruit.
mhm.
Everywhere you go, pretty much you can take one, you can get one, there's access to some, you can refill it. Like,
Right.
that's why I think it's so important. It's like the easiest thing to do. Sorry,
No,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah, it really is so easy. And like you said, a lot of people are like, how's water going to help me? It's going to help you. It's going to help with your skin. Just a side note, I've had two facials in my entire life, and both of the women were like, you stay hydrated, don't you? And I was like, I do. Um, you can tell, people can tell, like, your hydration makes such a difference in your skin, in the scale, and how you're feeling, like just in general, day to day. It makes such a difference, and it's such a simple thing to add into your day. So what I recommend for women is half your body weight in ounces of water per day, bare bones minimum. So if you're not there, if you're 160 pounds, if you are not yet drinking 80 ounces of water per day, bare bones minimum, work yourself up to that. Don't just expect yourself to like out of the blue start drinking 80 ounces of water per day.
Mhm.
See where you're at now, okay? And then add on 5 to 10 ounces for the next week, and then add on 5 to 10 ounces more until you are where you need to be. And then if you're doing extra things, like if you live in Florida, I don't, but if you live in Florida, if you live, in different areas, if you are on certain medications, if, depending on how often you work out, you may need more, but start with bare bones minimum, half your body weight in ounces per day. So that's like the very first thing that I recommend to women. Second is protein, because lots of different things. But like, so one of the things my clients just echo back to me so often is I can tell when I don't eat enough protein. Now that they are eating enough protein, okay, it's going to help so much with how hungry you are throughout the day, which if you're trying to lose weight and you're super hungry all the time, that's not a fun time. You're probably not going to stick to your diet, and you're going to be like, oh, I failed this again. But if you just get in enough protein, that's going to be one of the biggest things to help you with sticking to your calorie deficit, because you feel fuller for longer. So it's just going to be so helpful. And then back to the skin, it's going to help with your hair, skin, and nails.
Yep.
So many things. So get in your protein. Start with just adding protein to every meal. Not every person has a protein source with every meal. And so if you're one of those people who's like, I just have like pasta for dinner, just start adding a protein. It doesn't have to, you don't have to aim for a number right off the bat. Just aim
Yep.
for some sort of protein source at every meal that isn't peanut butter. I'm just kidding, Sarah. Um,
Where's that
so
peanut butter at?
so that's two. And then number three, I would say sleep. Okay. Reason being, I work with moms. I am a mom. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're staying up at night scrolling, if you're just using, the nighttime is my only me time, you're not doing yourself any favors. If you don't get enough sleep, your recovery is not going to be very good. You're going to be tired the next day. You are going to be more likely to be craving the junk food that you're probably trying to be mindful of, right? If you're trying to lose weight. And so getting enough sleep is going to be super beneficial. Now, I work with women who have newborns, who have kiddos who aren't sleeping through the night. Obviously, like I had someone comment on a reel one time. They were like, my kids don't sleep through the night. I was like, okay, like let's use some discernment here. Like, obviously, if your kids are affecting your sleep, that's not something you have control over, okay? Yep. But when you can, when it is within your control, go to bed at a decent time, get at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep, because you're going to feel good. You're going to be less tired throughout the day. You're going to have more patience throughout the day. You're going to have the energy for your workouts. It's going to make you feel so much better if you get enough sleep. So those are like my 3 things that I'm like, XYZ, let's start adding these into your day.
I will echo XYZ. And honestly, there's so many things and they work so synergistically together, right? We're talking about protein and we're talking about water and we're talking about sleep. It affects your ability to function. It affects your ability to have care and concern for yourself. It affects your mood. It affects your patience levels. Like it affects all of these things. It's like water is going to affect your sleep. Protein is going to affect your sleep. Sleep is going to affect your mood, your digestion, it's going to affect like every piece. They all work like synergistically together. So when we think that, oh, one thing isn't going to do anything, or this one thing isn't even going to, like, what difference does it make? It makes actually a bigger difference than what you think it does. And I don't know about you, but I would start adding these in like one at a time. That's typically what I do is I figure out like what is the easiest thing, like what is what we call low hanging fruit or easiest barrier to cross, right? If getting to the gym 5 times a week is like, whoa, like that seems super hard. Like, let's not start with a thing that's like going to put our whole body and system into like crazy shock. Let's start with the thing like, again, water, where we have access to it. We can take it pretty much anywhere we go. You can take it in a car. You can take it in a building. You can, in an office, like, so it's just like starting off slow, but understanding like how that it is a domino effect and they all work together. And so these are the exact places that I start with my clients is literally those things. And the protein thing too. I have a membership that's Basics on Demand. It's kind of like a Netflix for training. And then you get access to my master classes. And women in there are just like, I can't even believe how different I feel by eating protein. Like you were talking about your clients, it's like your blood sugar is more regulated. So your cravings are more regulated, right? And it's like, it's such a trickle down effect of just how everything cohesively starts kind of coming together. So those are the 3 I would 1,000% recommend.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, just a starting point, guys. Like there's more things that you can build off of from there, but everyone starts somewhere. And these are 3 great places to start, with also adding and looking at your week, month, day, etc. like Sarah said.
Yes. Yeah. I was just looking at my notes to make sure we had everything.
Oh, did we? I didn't even know you made notes. I
did. I made a couple of notes. That's why I said always have a water bottle, because I was like, okay, these are things that are like moms can do that we can take pretty much, you can take them to swim events. Like I sit in a hot pool for 4 hours, sometimes on Saturdays, 5 hours. And it's like, it gets really hot. And like having enough water for myself is like super duper important. So yeah, I definitely am like, oh, let's take some notes here to make sure but we covered literally everything on the notes that I wrote.
Amazing. We're in sync here.
We are
Uh,
totally so awesome.
yeah. One thing, and I know that you are kind of getting into like the teen space also of like working out and stuff. So I just want to say to all the moms out there, what you do, the habits that you are doing, they make a difference in your kids' life. Like your kids see these things. So I'm not going to go upstairs and get it, but my 5-year-old helped me make her packing lunch list because she wants to pack her lunch and bring it to class and eat her lunchbox. She helped me create her little menu for what we wanted to pack. She picked out a protein, she picked out a fruit and or a veggie for the day, and then we picked out, one other thing. And then she of course gets a little sweet treat. Like, guys, I eat sweet treats. Like, I'm not even gonna say, like, my journey would not be realistic without having some sweet treats. Okay, and I don't deny my kids that they have sweet treats too. Being healthy to me does not mean cutting out sugar completely. So she helped me put that together because these are very basic things of how I put meals together for her at home every single day, day in and day out. Right. My 14-year-olds, they both carry water bottles because they have seen me doing it for years now. And so they model what I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
They know they can come to me and be like, hey, a couple years ago, they came to me and they were like, I'm feeling hungry before lunch comes school, during school. What can I do to help me stay fuller for longer? And so I was like, okay, let's have this, this, and this for breakfast to help you stay fuller for longer. So like what you do and the things that you do, they matter a lot and they have a trickle down effect in your kiddos.
Mhm.
And that's just going to help them with their quality of life as they get older too. Now, obviously, we're not talking about weight loss for kids. We're just talking about like healthy habits, things that are going to help them have a better quality of life, feel better in their day to day, right? And so, if you don't do it just for you, like know that you are modeling for your kids too.
Yeah, I 1,000,000,000%. Having teenagers, you have two girls that are teenagers. Having grown up with a lot of body image issues myself, and it's so wild. I just had this whole conversation with my daughter the other day. Yesterday, I think it was. I was taking her to swim, and we were having some conversation about something. And she asked me some question, and my response was like, I don't know, Jen. I wasn't thinking about that when I was in high school. I was thinking about how fat I was and how I needed to go on a diet. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize we were getting that serious about this conversation. And I was like, it was so enlightening to me to go, oh, but that's literally what I was thinking about. Like, that's all I could think about when I was in high school was losing weight and how I was the biggest girl and all sorts of things, right? And so, with my kids being actively involved in sports, I'm seeing a very big gap of nutrition and strength training for kids who are just thrown into a gym. So, my kids were club swimmers. Then they got put into this gym in high school, and the high school coaches don't really know what they're doing. They're not trained in nutrition, they're not trained in strength training. Most of them have no knowledge, and so it was like this. It's like this very big gap that I am seeing, and that I'm trying now to help kind of fill a little bit of this space because my kids look at what other kids do, and they're like, why are they doing that? I'm like, I don't know. It's okay. Like, we don't, it's fine, but they do something very different. They eat very different. They look at food very different. Um, and so for us, it's all about like understanding, when they took science last year and they're talking about proteins and they're talking about carbs, they're talking about how all these things like work in the body. And so they would come home and tell me some things, and they're like, Mom, can you believe that they said this about a carb and how that's, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. Like, again, you don't have to say anything, but like they're learning different things about what is the truth and kind of reality about nutrition and how it works in our bodies. And then as well as, my daughter got pulled aside the other day at swim and was told, like, hey, like, just so you know, over the last 3.5 weeks, like, you've improved the most percentage wise on your test set. And he flat out said, it's because I know that you're in the gym and you're training and you've been training all summer. And that is now translating into the pool. So there's a huge gap that is not being done that I'm trying to fill, but politics and rules about high school. It's a very like bizarre place to be. I didn't realize it was so red taped there, but there is a lot of red tape there. But it's like even the coaches are going, we need this. Like this is wow, like, and I put together an entire program that I couldn't even use or help the girls with because we weren't allowed to do it, right? So there is a lot of things that we do as adults that our kids watch and they, like you said, they model what we do. They listen to the way we speak, how we talk about ourselves, the things that we say, how we talk about food. Like they absorb and they are listening. They are sponges. So if, like she said, you don't do it for you, do it for them, because I vowed never that I never wanted my kids to feel and have the life that I grew up having, not because my parents didn't love me, but my parents didn't know. But I know. And so now it's my job to do a better job. So sorry, that was like a whole life story tangent, but
No, I love it.
so
Yeah, this has all been amazing. Anything else you want to touch on before we hop off?
I don't think so. I think that we covered like honestly the basics. I think that we covered like how to make it work. We're both in very different spaces. So it's like, not even just who we help, but just in life. Like, but there's constantly, I think we are a great example of how to figure out to take these pieces and fit them into life. I always say you have to figure out how it fits into your life, not change your life to make it fit. So you got to figure out, and we both do it very differently, which I think is great for people to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining, Sarah. And for anyone who watches this, the replay was on live, whatever. If you have any questions, mine and Sarah's DMs are both always open. You can, of course, comment on this live. So we are always happy to talk with people about health, wellness. I specifically work with helping postpartum women rebuild their core and pelvic floor strength after having babies. Sarah is the Basics Bee. And so give us both a follow. Let us know if you have any questions. And thanks for joining, Sarah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.